Pizza is one of the most popular foods on the planet. Millions of people eat it every single day. It is served at birthday parties, late-night hangouts, family dinners, and even business meetings where nobody actually wants to cook. But here is something interesting. The pizza we know today, with melted cheese, tomato sauce, and toppings, is actually a fairly recent invention. The story of pizza is much older, much stranger, and it begins thousands of years ago. Long before delivery drivers, pizza chains, or arguments about pineapple. Hey friends, welcome back to another English shadowing practice. I am Nathan here with you. Just a quick reminder, listening is great, but speaking is where the real progress happens. So as you follow along, repeat whatever feels comfortable. You do not have to repeat every single sentence. Catch what you can, pause when you need to, and try saying parts out loud in your own rhythm. Everything here is kept short and clear, so it is easier to follow. Do not stress about being perfect. Progress comes from repetition, not perfection. So let us start. To understand pizza, we have to go way back in history. Thousands of years ago, ancient civilizations were already making something similar to pizza. Not exactly the same, but surprisingly close. In ancient Egypt, people were baking flatbreads using basic ovens made from clay. These breads were often topped with herbs or oils before eating. Meanwhile, in ancient Greece, people made a dish called plakos. It was a flat bread topped with ingredients like olive oil, onions, herbs, and sometimes cheese. Sound familiar? It was basically an early cousin of pizza. Even the Romans had their own version. Roman soldiers and citizens often ate flatbread topped with simple ingredients because it was cheap, easy to cook, and easy to carry. At the time, nobody called it pizza, but the basic idea was already there. Bread plus toppings equals delicious. Some ideas are just timeless. But modern pizza did not really start in Greece or Rome. It started in a very specific place, a crowded city in southern Italy called Naples. During the 1700s and 1800s, Naples was one of the largest cities in Europe. It was full of workers, sailors, and street vendors, and many of the people living there were poor. They needed food that was cheap, filling, and fast to prepare. Flatbread became the perfect solution. Street vendors would bake simple rounds of dough and top them with ingredients that were easy to find. Things like garlic, olive oil, herbs, and sometimes small fish. These early pizzas were sold directly on the streets. People ate them while walking or working. It was basically the original street food. Fast food existed long before drive-through windows. Then, something important arrived in Europe: tomatoes. When tomatoes first came from the Americas to Europe in the 1500s, many people believed they were poisonous. For years, tomatoes were mostly decorative plants, but the poor people of Naples were willing to try them as food. And once they started cooking tomatoes and spreading them over bread, something magical happened. The flavors worked perfectly together. The sweet acidity of tomatoes, combined with bread and oil, created something simple but incredibly satisfying. That combination became the foundation of modern pizza. By the early 1800s, pizza had become a huge part of everyday life in Naples. Street vendors sold it everywhere. Small bakeries specialized in it. Workers relied on it as an affordable meal. In fact, pizza became so connected to the city that travelers visiting Naples would often write about it. Some visitors loved it, while others were a little confused by the idea of eating bread covered in tomatoes. But the locals knew what they were doing. They had accidentally invented one of the most beloved foods in history. At that time, pizza still looked a little different from what we eat today. There was not always cheese. There were not dozens of toppings, and it definitely was not served in fancy restaurants. Pizza was humble food made with simple ingredients, cooked quickly in wood-fired ovens, and created for ordinary people. That simplicity was exactly what made it special. But pizza's story was about to take an unexpected turn. One day, a visit from Italian royalty would change pizza forever. It would give us the most famous pizza in the world and turn a poor person's street food into a national symbol of Italy. That moment created the legendary pizza margherita and helped pizza begin its journey across the world. By the 1800s, pizza had become a daily food for the people of Naples. Workers ate it for lunch. Sailors grabbed slices before heading to sea. Street vendors baked it quickly in wood-fired ovens and sold it directly on the streets. At that time, pizza was still considered poor people's food. Simple dough, tomatoes, a few herbs, and maybe a little cheese if you were lucky. But something important was about to happen that would change pizza's reputation forever, and surprisingly, it involved a queen. In 1889, King Umberto I and Queen Margherita of Savoy were visiting Naples. Legend says the queen had grown tired of the fancy meals served in royal palaces and wanted to try the food that ordinary people were eating. So, a famous local pizza maker named Raffaele Esposito was invited to prepare several pizzas for the queen. Esposito made 3 different pizzas, one with garlic, one with anchovies, and one with a very simple combination of ingredients: tomatoes, mozzarella cheese, and fresh basil. Those ingredients also matched the colors of the Italian flag: red, white, and green. The queen reportedly loved this pizza the most. To honor her, Esposito named it Pizza Margherita. Whether every detail of this story is perfectly accurate is still debated by historians, but one thing is certain. Pizza Margherita became one of the most famous pizzas in the world, and it helped transform pizza from street food into a proud symbol of Italian culture. Around this time, the first real pizzerias began appearing in Naples. The most famous one is Antica Pizzeria Port Alba, which many people consider the first official pizzeria. Originally, it started as a street vendor in the 1700s, but later it became a permanent restaurant. Customers could sit down and enjoy freshly baked pizza straight from the oven. This might sound normal today, but back then, the idea of a restaurant dedicated entirely to pizza was something new. And people loved it. The pizza itself was still very simple compared to modern versions. Traditional Neapolitan pizza follows strict rules. The dough was made with only a few ingredients: flour, water, yeast, and salt. It was stretched by hand, never rolled with a machine. Then, it was baked in an extremely hot, wood-fired oven for about 90 seconds. The result was a thin crust with soft, airy edges and a slightly charred flavor from the fire. Even today, traditional Neapolitan pizza is protected by special culinary standards. Pizza makers in Naples take their craft very seriously. To them, pizza isn't just food, it's an art. As pizza became more popular in Italy, it slowly started spreading beyond Naples. Travelers visiting the city tasted pizza and wrote about it in their journals. Some described it as delicious. Others thought it looked strange. Bread covered in tomatoes still seemed unusual to many Europeans at the time, but the idea was starting to travel, and the people who would carry pizza across the ocean were already preparing for a long journey. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, millions of Italians emigrated to other parts of the world. Many of them moved to the United States, especially cities like New York, Chicago, and Boston. They brought their traditions, recipes, and cooking styles with them. And of course, they brought pizza. At first, pizza remained mostly inside Italian immigrant communities, but it wouldn't stay there for long, because once Americans discovered pizza, there was no turning back. When Italian immigrants arrived in the United States in the late 1800s and early 1900s, they brought many traditions with them: language, music, family recipes, and of course, pizza. At first, pizza remained mostly inside Italian neighborhoods. In cities like New York, Italian communities recreated the foods they missed from home. Small bakeries and restaurants began making pizza the same way it was made in Naples. One of the earliest and most famous examples was Lombardi's in New York City. Opened in 1905, Lombardi's is often considered the first licensed pizzeria in the United States. The pizzas were cooked in coal-fired ovens and served to workers and families living nearby. At the beginning, most customers were Italian immigrants, but something interesting started happening. Other Americans began trying it, and they liked it a lot. As pizza spread through New York, it slowly began changing. The traditional Neapolitan pizza was small and soft, but New York pizza became larger, with a slightly thicker crust that could hold more toppings. It was also designed to be eaten on the go. People would fold the slice and eat it while walking down the street. If you've ever seen someone walking around New York holding a giant triangle of pizza, you're looking at a tradition that's more than a century old. Meanwhile, another American city was creating its own version of pizza, Chicago. In the 1940s, Chicago introduced something completely different. Instead of thin crust pizza, Chicago created deep dish pizza. This version looked almost like a pie. The crust was thick and baked in a deep pan. Cheese was placed on the bottom, followed by toppings, and then a layer of tomato sauce on top. It was rich, heavy, and very filling. Some people loved it. Others argued it wasn't real pizza. But whether people debated or not, Chicago deep dish became one of the most famous pizza styles in the world. After World War II, pizza experienced an explosion in popularity across the United States. Many American soldiers had spent time in Italy during the war. There, they discovered pizza for the first time. When they returned home, they wanted to eat it again. Demand grew quickly. More restaurants began offering pizza, and soon pizza spread far beyond Italian neighborhoods. It became an American favorite. Then came another big change: the rise of pizza chains. In the late 1950s and 1960s, several companies realized something important. Pizza was perfect for restaurant expansion. It was relatively simple to prepare, ingredients were affordable, and almost everyone loved it. One of the most famous chains, Pizza Hut, was founded in 1958 by two brothers in Kansas. Soon after, other chains followed. Domino's started in 1960. Little Caesars appeared in 1959. These companies introduced something that would completely transform the pizza business: pizza delivery. Suddenly, people didn't even need to leave their house to enjoy pizza. You could just make a phone call, and a hot pizza would arrive at your door. For many families, this felt like magic. And for college students at midnight, it still does. By the late 20th century, pizza had become one of the most recognizable foods in the world. Every country began adapting it to local tastes. Japan experimented with seafood toppings. Brazil added ingredients like green peas and corn. In Sweden, one unusual pizza includes bananas and curry, which proves two things. First, pizza is incredibly flexible. Second, humans are very creative when they are hungry. But pizza's story wasn't finished yet, because the modern world would turn pizza into a multi-billion-dollar global industry, and it would become not just food, but a worldwide cultural icon. By the late 20th century, pizza had traveled very far from its humble beginnings in Naples. What started as a cheap street food for workers had become one of the most popular meals on earth. Today, pizza is eaten in almost every country. From New York to Tokyo, from Rome to São Paulo, people everywhere have created their own versions of pizza, and the variety is incredible. In Italy, traditional pizza still follows strict rules. A real Neapolitan pizza must be made with simple ingredients, baked in a wood-fired oven, and cooked in under 2 minutes. The dough must be stretched by hand. The tomatoes usually come from a special type called San Marzano. The mozzarella is often made from buffalo milk. Italian pizza makers take these traditions very seriously. For them, pizza is not just fast food. It is part of their cultural heritage. In fact, the art of Neapolitan pizza making has even been recognized by UNESCO as an important cultural tradition. Meanwhile, in the United States, pizza continued evolving in creative ways. Different cities created their own styles. New York kept its famous large slices. Chicago kept its deep dish. Detroit developed a rectangular pizza with crispy cheese edges. California introduced gourmet pizzas with unusual toppings like barbecue chicken or goat cheese. Pizza became a canvas for creativity. Almost anything could go on top, and people never stopped arguing about the correct way to eat it. Thin crust or thick crust, extra cheese or no cheese. And of course, the most controversial topping debate of all time, pineapple on pizza. Some people love it, some people believe it should be illegal. But either way, the debate itself shows just how personal pizza has become. Pizza also became a massive business. Globally, the pizza industry is worth tens of billions of dollars every year. Large chains sell millions of pizzas daily. Delivery services bring pizza to homes within minutes. Some restaurants even use robots or advanced ovens to cook pizzas faster and more efficiently. But despite all the technology and global expansion, the basic idea of pizza has remained the same: dough, sauce, cheese, and heat. It is a simple combination that humans have loved for centuries. Pizza has also become a cultural symbol. You see it in movies, television shows, sports events, late-night study sessions, and even space missions. In fact, in 2001, Pizza Hut delivered a pizza to astronauts on the International Space Station. Which means that pizza is not just a global food anymore. It is officially space food. Not bad for something that once started as street food for workers in Naples. Another interesting thing about pizza is how it brings people together. It is one of the few foods that works in almost any situation. Family dinner, party with friends, office meeting, or a road trip stop. Few meals are as easy to share. You open a box, grab a slice, and suddenly everyone is happy. There is something very universal about it. When you think about the journey pizza has taken, it is actually quite amazing. From ancient flatbreads thousands of years ago, to the streets of Naples, to royal palaces, American cities, global chains, and even outer space. Pizza has traveled across cultures, countries, and centuries. And somehow, through all those changes, it has stayed simple. Maybe that is the secret. Pizza does not try to be complicated. It is just good food made from a few basic ingredients. And sometimes, the simplest ideas are the ones that last the longest. Today, billions of pizzas are eaten every year, and the story of pizza is still evolving. New styles appear, new toppings are invented, new pizza makers experiment with flavors and techniques. But every time someone pulls a hot slice out of the oven, they are continuing a tradition that began hundreds of years ago in the streets of Naples. And honestly, that might be the most delicious history lesson ever. All right, if you made it through this shadowing session today, that already says something about your discipline. This repetition and consistency combination might look boring on paper, but it is one of the most powerful ways to build fluent, natural English. Keep showing up like this, and your brain will slowly adapt. Trust the process. If this helped even a little, consider liking the video or subscribing. It lets me know these sessions are actually making a difference. We will catch up again soon. Take care till then.